When I first started teaching, as I looked at the group the first day, I discovered immediately, and it was obvious to me and there was no question about it, that there were 4 different groups in that class. I have since found out that there's the same 4 groups in every other class I've taught, and I suspect that the same 4 types are here. That within that class there were definite groupings that were obvious to me even as a first-year teacher who didn't know anything. The 4 groups that were there included the first group, which were what I learned to call the good guys. See, the good guys are those kids that are there for the same purpose I am. They are there to learn. They want to learn. They're glad they're there. They want to know what the rules are so they can follow them. They care what I think of them. They care what the other kids think of them. They care what their parents think of them. They care what report cards they get. They care what the rules are so they can follow them. They care what we're going to be doing next January. They care. Actually, there aren't too many in that group. But that's one group. There are those that are the good guys. My problem was the other 3 groups. The other 3 groups include the second group that I'm hesitant to call them what I used to call them because I had some lady chew me out one day and said, how could somebody supposed to be sensitive to kids call them that? But you'll understand it's not the way I see it, it's the way I saw it that got me where I am. The second group was what I call the dum-dums. Those kids that are so far below any possible level that I even knew existed. I'm not talking about individual differences. I can handle individual differences. I'm talking about I am teaching 8th grade literature and I got a kid that can't read. Now, what am I supposed to do with a kid who can't read? I don't know anything about reading. I got a secondary certificate. I never had any reading. Besides, they've had him down there 11 years. And they haven't taught him to read. Now, what am I supposed to do? Teach him to read while I'm teaching him English and 30 others? Man, I don't know anything about that. Or I'm teaching long division, and I've got enough sense not to start teaching long division by going to the multiplication tables. You know they don't know that. You start at the times tables. You start at second grade place value. You start at subtraction, and I'm willing to go to place value. I don't have any trouble with that, but I got a kid that can't count to 100. Now, nobody ever told me you're going to have those. I don't know what. I got a whole group of them. And there were people who said, well, some people want that kind. And I said, well, give them to them, man. I don't want that kind. Now, the third group is what I call very simply the emotionally disturbed and the behavior problems. Now, that's all one group. Some people think there's a difference. They usually are people who sit in offices and talk about it. But as a classroom teacher, I can't tell the difference in emotionally disturbed and behavior problems. No, there is one difference. If a kid hums to himself, he's emotional. If he hums to somebody else, he's behavioral. But if humming's all he does, you got it made anyway. See, if he beats himself in the head or beats his head on the desk, he's emotional. If he beats somebody else's head, he's behavioral. And the eyes, look, I don't know what to do with a kid like that. Nobody told me I was going to have him, much less what to do with them. See, there are people said, well, what you got to do is get their attention. It's get their attention. Hell, I can't even find them. They're crawling under the seats. I'll tell you what they need. They need somebody else to get their attention. Then when their attention's been gotten, I'll see what I can do. Now, the fourth group is the group I was always the least tolerant of until I share with you the kinds of things I'm going to be sharing with you. The fourth group is the group we have the most euphemisms for, which shows you something about that group because we got plenty of euphemisms for the others. The fourth group is the group that, well, let me try a couple of, see if you see where I'm coming from on this group. These would be the reluctant learners, the deprived kids, as opposed to the prived ones, which we don't talk much about. The at-risk ones. See, these are the ones that couldn't care less. Man, they come in there and they slouch down the seat and they don't care what you want, what anybody else wants, so teach me, so who cares? And see, the thing I saw immediately is they are not good guys, that's for sure. They are not dum-dums, that's almost unfortunate. And they are not emotional and only occasionally behavioral. Mostly they just couldn't care less. Now, there are people that gave me advice about them. They said, what they need is motivation, good, hard motivation. And I knew exactly what that meant, but it didn't work. I wouldn't have had all those kids in reform school if that stuff had worked. They had been beaten with sticks and boards and pipes. 93% of them had been physically abused. If beating on them did any good, man, that would work. Actually, I knew what they needed. I just didn't know how to get it to them. What they needed was a new home life, a new start in life, new parents, a new background. They needed somebody who would love them and read to them. They needed, well, I'll tell you what. When I looked at that group and I saw those four groups, I knew exactly what I was going to do. I didn't hesitate. because of my own background. Boy, it was obvious to me, and I didn't even worry me. I knew what I was going to do. Because, see, my own background being that I graduated from a one-room country school, 8th grade. And there were 27 kids in all 8 grades. The 3 kids in my graduating class, besides me, there was my older brother who had been retained a year, and a homely girl I hated. And the teacher who had us never made any pretense of teaching the group. She'd do a 1st and 2nd grade lesson, 3rd and 4th grade lesson, sometimes do a 4th through 8th grade lesson, sometimes just do an 8th grade lesson, and she didn't even act like she's going to teach us the same. So I figured that's what I'll do. I'll divide my room into quadrants. I'll put the good guys over here, the dum-dums over here, the emotional ones over here, and I'm not even going to act like I teach them the same. I do my good guy lesson, do my dum-dum lesson, do my emotional lesson, and that's when I figured out that I couldn't do that. Because as soon as I had that bright idea, I also discovered that you can't do a good guy lesson because the good guys are all different. My good guys range from shy, withdrawn, fragile, tenuous type of good guys to the egomaniacs and everything in between. Within the dum-dums, they range from kids who don't even know they're dumb to kids who walk around saying, I'm dumb, so much you can't teach them. Within the emotional ones, I got one kid who won't say a cotton-picking word. I got another kid who won't shut up. And what am I going to do? I don't know what to do. What I did is I saw immediately the futility of trying to teach even groups within the groups because it plain old doesn't work. If you take it on any dimension, in terms of what they already know, what they need to know, in terms of their personality, in terms of anything, you can't put them together. I know of absolutely nothing that I could have gone and put on the board, a problem, that would have been appropriate to every kid in that class. I can't even imagine putting a problem on the board that would have been appropriate to most of them. I can't even imagine putting a problem being appropriate to some of them. In fact, I'm not sure I could put a problem be appropriate to any of them. What are you going to do? Give a book appropriate to all of them? Give an assignment appropriate to all of them? Start teaching a unit? Or give a review appropriate? There is no way to do it. And boy, I saw that immediately.